PR Connections Radio presents
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And with the off-season and everything that's going on, I wanted to take a very quick look back at the season that we just watched. And more importantly, here on Vegas Hockey Hub, I wanted to answer a very important question. Who is the most underrated player on the Vegas Golden Knights from this season? Who was the player that does not get enough credit for what he does with the Vegas Golden Knights organization? Now, I'm not going to put the annual suspects, okay? I'm not going to put the guys that you already know, all right? I'm not going to say, oh, I think it's Jack Eichel. No, here's what we're going to do here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm going to give you not one, not two, not three, but I'm going to give you 4 candidates for who the most underrated player is when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights based off of this past season that we've been watching. And, you know, I'm just going to eliminate 6 people right off the bat, by the way, because they are not underrated. In fact, they are properly rated. And those 6 players are going to be Mark Stone, Jonathan Marchessault, Jack Eichel, Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo, and Logan Thompson. Those guys are not underrated. All right, they are guys who everyone knows. People are watching them. They're paying attention to them. That's not what this show is about. What this episode of Vegas Hockey Hub is about is talking about the guys who the casual fan does not appreciate. I'm talking about the guys that when you watch them play, they do not get enough respect. They do not get enough credit when it comes to how they play with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. And to really start this out, we're going to go with option 1. We're going to go with a misfit. We're going to go with someone who has been the most underappreciated and, for a little bit, the most underrated player Vegas Golden Knights have had for the last couple of years. And this is someone who, yeah, if you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan, or if you're a diehard Golden Knights fan, you know exactly who Brayden McNabb is. If you're someone who's grown up in Vegas and you've been around the Vegas Golden Knights the last couple of years, you know who Brayden McNabb is. He is someone who you know very well. But when I'm talking about the most underrated player, I'm branching out from Vegas. I'm not just talking about the people that are here in the 702, out there in the 725. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm branching out to the whole entire world, and Brayden McNabb does not get enough credit for what he has done. Regardless of it being with Nate Schmidt at the beginning of his tenure with the Vegas Golden Knights, with Alec Martinez, who he's had some experience being on the same line with, regardless if it was Alex Pietrangelo, Shea Theodore, Caden Korzak, it doesn't matter what line mate and what pairing you have put Brayden McNabb with. He has made one of those guys the best form of it. I mean, this is someone like Brayden McNabb who has been one of the best shot blockers in all of hockey over the last couple of seasons, and someone in terms of plus minus that is at the top or one of the top players on the Vegas Golden Knights year in and year out. So when it comes to Brayden McNabb, is he underrated by Golden Knights fans? No, not by any means of the imagination. But is he underrated when you're watching NHL on TNT? Absolutely. Is Brayden McNabb underrated when you tune and you watch NHL on ESPN? Yes, he is. And especially if you ever watch Sportsnet or if you ever watch TSN, yeah, they never, ever, rarely bring up Brayden McNabb when they're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights. And that is because he is so underrated and doesn't get enough respect from people outside the Vegas Golden Knights and outside of city of Las Vegas as a hockey fan. So, with Brayden McNabb, I just want to remind you one time, I'm going to read his stat sheet out. This is from hockeyreference.com. And when it comes to Brayden McNabb, his stat line for this past season, as we are looking at it with Brayden McNabb, and when it comes to what he just did, he had a full 82-game season that he did play. Has not missed a game this year. As a matter of fact, he did not miss a single game the year prior. So he's had back-to-back years of playing every single game. That's dependable. That's durable. It's reliable. I like that about Brayden McNabb. He only had 4 goals, all right? Only 4 goals on the year, but he had 22 assists and a plus 18 with the Vegas Golden Knights. That plus 18 is a team leader here in Vegas. So out of all the members of the Vegas Golden Knights, he is the team leader in plus minus. And if you actually want to trace it back to the last 4 years, he has had double-digit plus minus every year since 2020. Plus 10 in 2020, 2021, plus 10 in 21, 22, plus 17 in 22, 23, and then this past year, plus 18. And when it comes to scrapping, if you need to get physical, Brayden McNabb has been very durable when it comes to dropping the gloves. He has gotten into fights. He's had altercations. He sticks up for his teammates, and you respect that about a guy like Brayden McNabb. He had a little under 40 penalty minutes this past season. So overall, with Brayden McNabb, just studying what he has done, I mean, even in the postseason, what we just saw about 2 weeks ago, when it comes to Brayden McNabb, he played in all 7 postseason games. He had 2 goals in the postseason, very important goals, by the way, to keep the Vegas Golden Knights where they were at that time. He had 5 points and a plus 5, who once again was the team leader of the Vegas Golden Knights. So out of everybody on the Golden Knights in that postseason against Dallas, Brayden McNabb led in plus minus. And I also want to mention, this is a guy in Brayden McNabb who played over 21 minutes a night in the postseason. Compare that to about the 19 minutes or so that he played in the regular season per night. It does make sense, though, in the regular season. He was on that second defensive pairing, normally with Shea Theodore and Caden Korczak when Shea Theodore got hurt. And then during the postseason, he had that 21 minutes, not only because during the playoffs they had that overtime situation, but there's also a guy in Brayden McNabb who you saw him play more alongside his line mate and his pairing mate during the postseason. He had more of a priority in that situation there. And, Hockey Reference, who I love to bring up as my stat, they actually track more than just plus minus. They track more and stuff like that. And what is very crucial and what I appreciate about Brayden McNabb is that they track the amount of shot blocks he has had, the amount of hits that he has had. And Brayden McNabb, 207 blocks in 23-24, over 200. Compare that to the year before when he had a little under 200 at 197 with Brayden McNabb. In terms of hits, he had around 150 hits for the Vegas Golden Knights. That is the 3rd year in a row that Brayden McNabb has had over 150 hits on the year. And as a matter of fact, with the Vegas Golden Knights organization, he has actually hit 150 or more 6 of the 7 years that he has been here. The only one that he did not eclipse that was during the shortened 2020-2021 year. So overall, with Brayden McNabb, this is someone who you can appreciate definitely on the defensive end, but also he makes clutch goals. He is very good at passing the puck and getting it to the right read. So Brayden McNabb, most underappreciated player, that is option number 1 here on what we're talking about with Vegas Hockey Hub and the most underrated player. But I did mention how there was 4 options for the most underrated player with the Vegas Golden Knights. Option 1, who we spent the last couple of minutes talking about, is defenseman Brayden McNabb. But option number 2, and this guy is going to be a free agent in about 2 months, and we're going to have to see what happens to him. But for the time being, Michael Amadio has been a crucial part of the middle 6, of the bottom 6, the top 9, Michael Amadio, in terms of his leadership in the locker room, this is somebody that really has brought in a certain presence to the Vegas Golden Knights. And it's kind of fascinating to think about with Michael Amadio, where his career was before he got to Vegas versus what happened after he got to the Vegas Golden Knights organization. Just to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about, when it comes to Michael Amadio, this is someone that, he was with a handful of teams before coming to Vegas. He was with the Los Angeles Kings for a couple of years. They move on from him. He's at Ottawa for a little bit, gets put on waivers. He's on Toronto for a little bit. He gets put on waivers. And you could make a very valid argument, and you can make a claim that some people are going to, that Michael Amadio is either the best or this top two best waiver claims in Vegas Golden Knights history. Later on, we might do a video about that here on this channel sometime down the road. But when it comes to Michael Amadio, his waiver claim when he was brought into the Vegas Golden Knights is very fascinating to kind of look at in the 2021 landscape, because like I said, he had spent the last 2 years, going from LA to Ottawa to Toronto. So when he got to Vegas this past 3 seasons that he has been with the Vegas Golden Knights, he went from being a bottom six guy with the Vegas Golden Knights, someone who played around 50 games, but was racking up a decent amount of goals. I mean, this is a guy who scored a dozen goals off of a waiver claim with the Vegas Golden Knights. And regardless of who you are, regardless of what team you are, it is incredibly not strange, but it is atypical for a waiver claim to perform as well as Michael Amadio did in year one with the Vegas Golden Knights. It is someone, Michael Amadio, who had around 20 points during his first campaign with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. It's also someone who kind of provided his usage when it came to hits. He was actually someone who, would bring some hits, he would take some hits. And this is someone, Michael Amadio, who when the Vegas Golden Knights missed the playoffs that year, they not only brought him back, but this is someone, Michael Amadio, who got a very nice extension in terms of what he was doing previously with the Vegas Golden Knights. And then the past 2 seasons, Michael Amadio, he played 73 games this year with the Vegas Golden Knights, had 14 goals and a little over 25 points on the year. Compare that to the year before when he had 16 goals and just a little over 25 points. Michael Amadio, what I can give him credit for and what I will always give him credit towards is the fact that Michael Amadio is consistent. Wow, he is incredibly consistent in terms of his points production, in terms of what he does on the ice. It is someone who, like I said, he's pretty good at the hits. And when it comes to the faceoff circle, this season had a 51% faceoff win rate with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. It is someone who only, and is about 12, 13 minutes a night being on the ice, he took his middle six opportunities and he turned it into being a well-tuned player with the Vegas Golden Knights. So Michael Amadio won't get a lot of attention outside of the Vegas Golden Knights. I understand that. And when it comes to Michael Amadio, this is someone who, when you study what he has done, his face-off ability, that's very important. I think that his production, his time on ice, and getting the most out of his minutes is what makes him so valuable and what has made him one of the most underrated guys with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. Michael Amadio, depending on what happens this year, now I understand that he is, towards the back end of his 20s. He is, around 27, 28 years old. But with Michael Amadio, hopefully he stays here. I would kind of hate to see him leave the Golden Knights organization. But with Michael Amadio, these past 2 seasons, the fact that he has racked up 30 goals over the last 2 seasons with the Vegas Golden Knights, and what he did come playoff time, racking up 6 postseason goals in the last 2 seasons. He is dependable. He is consistent. And I don't think that you're going to have to spend a lot of money on a middle six forward, which means that he is someone who you can get cheaper than you would get as a top six forward. So, yeah, Michael Amadio as option 2 when it comes to who is the Golden Knights' most underrated player. And once again, I just mentioned this because of the fact that, I talked about Brayden McNabb for the first one, and I do believe that he is the most underrated player with the Vegas Golden Knights. But hey, if you want to make an argument for Michael Amadio and say that he is the most underrated player based off his stat line, based off his production value, you can make a real concrete, solid argument for Michael Amadio being that guy. So definitely he is someone you could be talking about. And, the next option, and really these next two options, it's all based on perspective, okay? These next two options, we're talking about who is the Vegas Golden Knights' most underrated player. These guys might seem properly rated if you're in Vegas. Might be properly rated if you are living here. But if you are outside of Vegas, these next two guys, they might not be on your radar. And that's the reason why I want to talk about them very quickly. So let's move over to option 3 here on Vegas Hockey Hub, talking about who is the most underrated player with the Vegas Golden Knights. So he is a newbie compared to the other 3 options that we have on here. And some people are going to try to make an argument and say, wait, how is a first-line winger an underrated player with the Vegas Golden Knights? What could be the rationale between having a guy like Ivan Barbashev be an underrated player with the Vegas Golden Knights? And for that argument, I'm going to give you 2 reasons. When it comes to Ivan Barbashev, reason 1 that he could be underrated is because of who his 2 line mates are. Jack Eichel is a superstar. Jack Eichel is a top 20 player in the NHL. He gets all the attention in some parts. This is someone in Jack Eichel that when you watch him play, he takes up a good amount of what your attention will be. And then on the opposite of Barbashev, on the wing, you have Jonathan Marchessault. And Jonathan Marchessault is also a 40-goal scorer, and he is a top 70 player in the NHL. It is somebody in Jonathan Marchessault who also, similar to Jack Eichel, are going to take up a bunch of attention on that first line. So what does that mean for Ivan Barbashev, who's on the left? Is that because there's plenty of people focusing on what Eichel can do in terms of his playmaking ability. People are focusing on what Marchessault is doing in terms of his goal scoring and the way that he moves the puck around. It leaves Barbashev as an underrated talent, and more importantly, it leaves Ivan Barbashev as the person that they are leaving out of their attention on that first line. That's the reason number 1. That's the first reason why Ivan Barbashev could be the most underrated player, is because his 2 line mates outshine him. His 2 line mates get all the attention for themselves, and that leaves Barbashev, who actually had a really good second half of the year, to have a underrated status on that first line. And then reason 2 as to why Ivan Barbashev could be an underrated player is the fact that when you study Ivan Barbashev's play, he is a durable 82-game player. He played the entire 82-game season this past year. He played 82 games. The previous year, when he split with St. Louis and with Vegas, he only missed 1 game in 21-22 when he played in St. Louis his final full year. So with Ivan Barbashev's dependability, that allows him to have some underrated status because he's not missing time, because he is not taking out of action. You're not having to sit there and worry and wonder where Ivan Barbashev is. He is right there in the lineup. You can see him every single day, and that's an underrated and a very underappreciated part of the NHL. Not many people get enough credit for playing every single game in the NHL, how brutal and with how many injuries kind of stack up throughout an entire year. Another aspect of Ivan Barbashev's game that would make him an underrated guy is the amount of hits that he puts out. This is someone that Ivan Barbashev that this past year in 23-24, he put up over 175 hits for the Vegas Golden Knights. I also want to remind you that he had over 175 hits on the 22-23 season combined between St. Louis and Vegas. So he is a hit maker out there in Ivan Barbashev, and that is an underrated quality about him. He can do those hits. There's also someone in Ivan Barbashev who's going to give you those 16, 17 minutes a night being a first-line winger, and he's going to get you solid production. We've seen it from him time and time again. Now, the stat line for Ivan Barbashev this past year, played all 82 games like I mentioned before, but he had 19 goals, so he was barely missed the 20-goal mark. He had 45 points on the year, which was the same that he eclipsed in the year prior, and he had around 40 penalty minutes, which is the exact same as what he did the year before. As a matter of fact, Ivan Barbashev has hit 40 penalty minutes back-to-back seasons. That's dependable. And when it comes to a guy like Barbashev, yeah, we're not seeing the 25 goals and the amount of 60 points he showed in his final full year in St. Louis, but they signed him to that deal. He got a 5-year contract. He's going to be with Vegas the next couple of years. And I'm personally really curious to see how Barbashev does. Because the second half of the year, some people caught it, some people didn't. But the second half of the year, Ivan Barbashev and Jack Eichel were really showing some good chemistry with their pass selection, the way they were moving the puck around, the way that their chemistry was getting from the offensive zone in the neutral zone and then back into the defensive zone. So, yeah, Ivan Barbashev and Jack Eichel were really showing some good chemistry second half of the year. So it's really curious to see what happens with Barbashev heading into next year. But, yes, he is an option for the most underrated with the Vegas Golden Knights. So as we are talking about who is the most underrated player with the Vegas Golden Knights, option 1 is defenseman Brayden McNabb. Option 2 is Michael Amadio. And then option 3 is Ivan Barbashev. And then the fourth and final option when it comes to who the most underrated player is with the Vegas Golden Knights, I have to remind Vegas Golden Knights fans that I'm talking about outside of Vegas. And this is someone who a couple of years ago wouldn't have been underrated. In fact, he actually would have been overrated by a few people based off of what his contract was. You know, his contract was looking really bad for a little bit with the Vegas Golden Knights, and he turned it around this year. The year prior, he was starting to turn it around, but this year he definitely turned it around. And at option 4 with the Vegas Golden Knights, it is going to be this player right here. So with William Karlsson, you have to recall that the first 2 years he was with the Vegas Golden Knights, he was one of the most properly rated guys with the Vegas Golden Knights. He had a really strong start to his tenure with the Vegas Golden Knights. Can't take that away from him. I will never sit there and say that he wasn't a very good, properly rated guy. The issue that William Karlsson had was that after he signed his contract, he statistically started going down just a little bit, and he actually had a run where about a 3-year stretch, people were asking, are the Golden Knights going to cut his contract? Is he going to stay here? I mean, I remember at one point he had only a dozen goals during one season, and he had statistically one of the worst runs that he had had as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. So what William Karlsson did the next year was that even though he only had 14 goals in 22-23, he had around 40 assists that year, and it kind of, bucked him up to around 55 points on the year. And in a way, it felt like he kind of saved himself from, not being in any trade rumors or not being targeted when it came to the Vegas Golden Knights, because that previous offseason, there was all these articles and the dirt sheets and everything. I mean, damn, it was very annoying, hearing the stuff that William Karlsson might get traded. I mean, it was really abnormal, but really annoying to hear. And then it also helped that during the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs, he had one of the best runs that we saw in Vegas Golden Knights postseason history. He averaged half a goal per game and had 17 points when they won the Stanley Cup. So how did William Karlsson capitalize off of that? Well, this past season, William Karlsson played in just 70 games. So he did miss some time with the Vegas Golden Knights, but he had a 30-30 season with the Vegas Golden Knights. So after having, about 3 or 4 years where his goals were not being lit up as much as it was in the past, William Karlsson hit the 30-goal mark for the first time since 2017-2018. He had a 60-point season, which was the first time he hit 60 points since 2017-2018. His plus-minus was among the highest that he had been in a couple of years. So, with William Karlsson, the reason why you could put him on the underrated tier is that for the first time in a couple of years, he showed up statistically for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, we got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to end the show here. But I want to know from everyone watching all around the world, who is the most underrated player with the Vegas Golden Knights in your opinion? If you're on our YouTube channel, comment down below. If you're on our Facebook or Instagram or Twitter at Vegas Hockey Hub, go into the comment section and let us know down below. Once again, option 1, defenseman Brayden McNabb. Option number 2, right wing Michael Amadio. Option 3, left wing Ivan Barbashev. And then at number 4 is center William Karlsson. And until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Continue watching hockey. Go support junior hockey. And go Knights. Go.
Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.